Greetings, students. Happy week number 3 of life management. I'm excited and happy to be back with you. So again, before we jump into chapter 3, let's go ahead and head back to week number 2 and kind of review what we were learning and how your assignments went for last week. So we were talking really about goal setting. Therefore, I gave you the prompt or the instructions to start your paper for this course, which is a goals paper. Works perfectly, right? So I hope you're starting to think about and maybe even starting to jot down goals, because you have to come up with 50, right? So you have to kind of really think about the areas or topics that are important to you, which areas will you have more goals or fewer goals in? And then how can you continue to work on the goals and make them as specific as possible? So we did that, and then we talked about one story in social capital. We had talked about that earlier, but I got around to grading your social capital activities. I hope really my goal for that activity was for you to make some personal connections in looking at a student's life or someone's life and how that person was able to, even though they came from a very challenged background, they were able to get social capital or get mentors or people in their life that were able to help them succeed. And I want you to be making those connections, right? So when I went through and I graded your activities, I really liked that many of you were very specific. You gave me the names of some of the people in Juan's life that were important, that helped him with social capital, things of that nature. I am going to go ahead and push or encourage all of you to share more. So in other words, this is a college course. And as a professor, I expect a certain level of interaction. And since you and I don't get to meet face-to-face, which is a bummer, right? We don't get to do that. My interaction with you is when I read your assignments. When I provide you with an activity or an assignment and you do that activity or assignment, this is our interaction, right? And so I really want to push you to give more in those responses, right? Each of those activities that we do is worth like 30 points. That's a lot. And I want you to, give me more. I don't know how to say it. What I will share is that when I was in school, when I was in college and I had online classes, my professors would actually write down how many words they expected. In one of my other classes, I do that activity. So I will actually say, I expect you to write 200 words. I expect you to write 500 words. Sometimes my assignments were 1,000 words, right? They were pretty heavy. And so what I'm saying is I haven't done that yet. Hoping I really don't have to move in that direction, because I want you to dig a little bit deeper. And we want more than 1 sentence, 2 sentence answers. I want a paragraph. I want a full on, I want you to think about, remember the word reflect is to process and think about the information. So I want you to read that case study, or when we do an activity, read through the activity, process it, take some time to think about how did you feel about it, what did it make you think about, process the activity, and then write down. There is no right or wrong per se in what your answer is, but I want you to dig deep. So I'm going to push you to do that because this is a college class. And my goal here is to prepare you for the amazing future that I know you have ahead of you. So I would be doing a disservice to you if I just kind of let you skate by with the minimalist work possible, right? Because what would happen is you would go on to future college classes or future work endeavors, and your work would maybe be subpar or below where it should be. And I don't want that. I want to prepare you now for the future. So I'm going to ask you to go ahead and start giving me paragraphs instead of sentences, okay, for your responses. Some of you are already doing that. Some of you are really great sharers. That's wonderful. I want to encourage all of you to pursue that line of thinking. Again, we're just now clarifying that that is my expectation from you, right? And I know you can do it. So on your next future activities, you will continue to think along those lines, right? So what do we have going on this week? This week, we're going to talk about motivation, which is really important because it is motivation that helps us to succeed, to excel, to try new opportunities, to accomplish goals. So we'll talk about motivation. Our activities for this week, instead of one case study, we actually have 3 smaller activities going on this week, and I really like them. They're really fun. They are deep, so I'm going to put it out there right now. They are something that can hit home for you. In other words, we're going to be getting real, as I like to put it. I'm real with you. I'm very vulnerable. I'm very honest with you, and I want you to start doing that on your papers and on these activities that we have going on this week. We're going to talk about identity. We're going to talk about your identity and some of the different things in society that have caused us to face challenges in life. And how do we overcome that? So I'm not going to share a lot right now. You are going to see a little shorter video later in the week that will talk more about the 3 activities that we will be doing this week that will help you reflect on your identity. Right? What we're going to do now is go ahead and jump into our learning material, right? So let's go ahead and start talking about chapter 3. Now, don't forget, as I go quickly through our PowerPoint slides, my talking to you in this video is no substitute for you reading the chapters. So as we go through our material, you see something, we write it down, you learn, but when you read it in your chapters, in your book, you really get a lot more information, right? So make sure you're still doing that, right? So what keeps us motivated? How are we motivated? Well, there's these 3 things that really do help us to stay in that positive aspect of being motivated. One is self-efficacy. Sounds like a fancy word, but I'll explain it in a moment. The second one is relevance. And the third one is our attitude. So these are the 3 key components of motivation. And we're going to talk very briefly about each one of those. So self-efficacy, think of it as similar to self-belief, right? So self-efficacy is your belief that you have the ability to carry out the actions needed to accomplish or reach your goals or a particular goal. That's what it is. It's this belief in that ability. So when you can prove to yourself that you're making progress, that is part of self-efficacy. So for instance, here we are in week number 3 of this college course, and you can look back right now, you can go click onto the grades tab in Canvas, and you can see, oh, here's the assignments that I submitted already, and here's the grades I got for them. I'm proving to myself I'm making progress. I'm doing good. I am actively engaged and completing a college level course. And so that is that self-efficacy. And the more we do it, when we get to week 6, we get to week 9, and we get to week 12, and we're finishing up the semester, your self-efficacy and your self-belief just kind of like increases, right? It gets bigger and bigger, and we feel better about ourselves because we're on our way to that goal of finishing a college class. So we strengthen that self-efficacy, and one of the ways we can do that is what we call modeling. So modeling is this practice of watching others complete a task successfully. In other words, the person is a model for you. Right? Now these can be, it could be family members, it could be friends, it could be Oprah Winfrey, right? It could be stars that have succeeded in life in positive ways. And so we look at these people and go, whoa, they came from some humble beginnings like me, but they really have been successful and achieved something. I want to be like that. I want to model myself after that person because they've been successful in achieving that, right? And we always need to, again, seek support and encouragement in all of our endeavors. And remember, in general, we're going to talk later about stress management in details. But here, I want you to remember that, number 1, stress is something that we all face. All of us. There's none of us that live a stress-free life. So it is natural and normal for all of us to encounter stress. The big question is how you manage it. It's not whether or not you will encounter stress, because you will. It's how do you manage it? Excuse me. And what we want to do here is we want to turn our stress into a motivator. For instance, you know, one of my big motivations when I was in college, again, I've shared with you, I came from a low income background. I do know what it's like to not always have food. I do know what it's like to definitely be laughed at because my clothes are homemade and I don't own any clothes that were from a department store. I remember that in my elementary school years. And I took, you know, even as a student, I was a starving student. Sometimes I wouldn't have enough food. I would eat crackers and jam for several days. But I remember taking that memory, that experience of being hungry or being miserable because I'm eating crackers and jam, and using it to motivate me to continue on. That, you know what, I'm going to stick with school. I am continuing in my classes. Yeah, I don't have anything right now, but you know what? The only way for me to get it is to succeed at what my goal is here. And so I turn that stress of being hungry or not having enough money to pay the bills, you turn that into something that says, I don't like feeling like this. I want to have money. I want to have enough to be comfortable, right? And so using or turning that stress into a motivator is really good. So the second thing that is something that can help this motivation is what we call relevance. And relevance means that something is important to you. It's relevant to your life. So it's this feeling that achieving a goal will make a positive difference in your life, right? When I think of relevance, you know, some of the things I've struggled with, and this is just me personally, from an ethical viewpoint, is, you know, I have a hard time thinking about art, for instance. I love art, and I love people who have creative abilities to create art. I can't draw a stick figure. If my life depended on it, I cannot. I have no artistic ability. So I'm always fascinated by people that are creative and they can do that. However, I don't really believe and feel like selling a work of art for $10 million. That doesn't resonate with me, because for me, I feel like $10 million could do a lot of good in this world. We could feed a lot of people. We could make a lot of change with $10 million. And so when I think about the relevance of art, having a purchase price or a ticket price of millions of dollars, it doesn't really motivate me. Right? So you want your goals, you want your activities to be relevant to what your end goal is, to what you want to do in life, right? And I put here a really, it's a short little video here of an amazing individual. Malala is a young girl that was, you know, I don't want to tell you all her story, but she was basically shot because of her speaking out on education and issues for women. When she was only 15 years old, I believe she was shot. And so she gives a short little interview here, and she is, you know, again, she's encouraging, she's motivating to me. And I encourage you to take a moment, either pausing this video and watching that video, or watching it at a later time. But, you know, she will encourage you. And she will, sorry, I'm not going to play that for you. But she will motivate you to see how she made relevance a motivating factor for her, right? So again, making our goals feel more relevant, right? So finding something interesting in an everyday class. So for instance, when I was in college, I had to take classes that I didn't think were relevant. So when I took astronomy or when I took geology, I didn't really like them because I wasn't into geonomy, you know, astronomy, all those different, I just didn't care really. However, what I had to do was I had to find something interesting because I still wanted an A in the class, because I still wanted to get good grades and I wanted to do well. And so I had to figure out, how do I make this class relevant to me, right? So I had to connect my coursework with my long-term goal, which was, my long-term goal is to get a degree. Therefore, I'm going to have to do well in this class, right? Building those transferable skills, I really am going to hope that in life management class here, you are going to get some skills here that will help you in your future jobs and in your future coursework. I want you to learn time management. I want you to learn organizational skills. I want you to learn what it means to reflect. That's why we have reflections every week, because I really believe reflecting is important in life. We can gain a lot of knowledge just by taking the time to process what we learned that week, right? So focusing on our love of learning, right? I love learning. I would be a student forever because I just think learning is fascinating. So on the exam, there may be something along this lines of, what do you do if an assignment seems really irrelevant to your life? So for instance, you have a geology assignment and you're like, who really cares what type of rocks are in the Himalayan mountains, right? You have to try to connect that assignment to something that's relevant to us, right? So you have to, for instance, I really don't care about the rocks and don't really care about, geology in that way. However, one of the things that I am passionate about is the environment. I am. That's just one of the things that I am, in my family, we recycle everything because my children are going to be the next generation, and I hope their children. Therefore, what's going to happen if we just continue to pollute our environment and continue to lose the ozone layer and continue to have shifting tectonics because we are destroying our Earth? Think about it. We just continue to build dumps. Like we carve a hole out of the earth and we dump all of our trash and we bury it. Well, pretty soon there's going to be no place to keep dumping and burying. What are we going to do? And so that I am passionate about. And so I can kind of relate this whole instance of talking about geology and rocks. I don't care too much about rocks, but I do care about how those things affect the earth. What should we be doing to protect this earth, this amazing gift that we have, the trees that we have, right? So what can we do about that? So make your assignments relevant to you. And the third different key component that helps us to stay motivated is what we call positive attitude. I'm a big believer in having a positive attitude. So what does it do? It makes you more resilient in the face of difficulties. You can have two people that encounter the same struggle. However, if one has a negative attitude and one has a positive attitude, much more likely the person with the positive attitude is the one that overcomes that struggle because it motivates us when we have this good outlook. So it helps us to learn from our mistakes. We need to learn from our mistakes, right? I think that's one of the reasons why I always, when I was young, or still today actually, I love hanging out with older people. I just do. I love, 80-year-olds, they're like my buddies, they're my friends. I like hanging out with them. One of the reasons is because they have a tremendous amount of wisdom. They're wise. They have lived life. And I kept thinking to myself, wouldn't I be smart if I sat down with somebody who was 80 years old and let them share some of life's nuggets of gold with me? Why would I want to make the mistakes they made already if I can avoid them because they share with me some of the good choices I could make? And so I think learning from our mistakes is really, really important, right? So this positive attitude, it's a powerful motivator that can keep you energized and focused on your goals. It really, really can if you're positive all the time. Let's say if your goal is to be a doctor, you're looking at a lot of years of education. So how do you stay positive, or motivated when you're in year number 7 of med school? You have a positive attitude. Another big thing I'm going to say is that people like positive people. And this is the thing I always share with my own kids, right? Sometimes my kids will come home and they'll share with me some of the words their friends say and some of the things their friends do. And I'll think, you know what? That person is just probably not really just a good person for you to hang with because every time you tell me about them, they're saying negative comments to you. They do not do anything to uplift you in any way. They don't encourage you. They're rude, kind of. And I'm thinking, don't surround yourself with that. Get out of that because none of us really enjoy. You ever been in a group or a setting and there's like this person that brings everybody down because they're always so negative or they complain and they moan about everything? You want to get away from those kind of people. I like only being around happy people. I shouldn't say always happy, but positive people because for all of us, we're never happy 100% of the time. Life comes with hardship. It does for all of us. And so we cannot be happy, but how I encounter that hardship, if it's with the positive attitude that, you know what, I don't understand what's going on right now. It's not fair. Life's not fair. I lost my brother at 29 to AIDS. And I just remember thinking, it's not fair. He hasn't even had a family yet. It's not fair. It's not fair. However, we have to find a way to overcome challenges and struggles. And so be a positive person, because why? You attract other people. Right? You do. When you're positive, people want to be around you because you're fun and you're positive. When you're down, people don't want to be around you. All right. So continuing with that positive attitude, right? I'll let you again take a minute if you'd like to watch this little clip that I included for you here, which is really cute and funny. And it's just about the power of in life's adversities to stay positive, right? All right, so let's talk about motivation. All right, so motivation is having the energy to meet a goal. There's two different types of motivation here. The first one is intrinsic motivation. I like to think of the word intrinsic, starts with I-N. So intrinsic motivation comes from within. It's your inner desire to accomplish goals. The other kind is extrinsic motivation. So think of X as being outside. And what that means is that your desire to accomplish goals comes from outside of you, not within you. So let me give you an example. If I have a college student and the college student tells me, the reason I'm here at Delta College is because my mom says that for me to live at home rent-free, I have to take at least three college classes. In this instance, the student's motivation is extrinsic because the person is in college because there's a caveat. In other words, mom says, I live here rent-free if I go to college, so I'm going to college because that's one of what the rules or what mom has said I have to do, right? If somebody says to me, yeah, I work full-time, I have a family, but I really, I'm a nurse right now and I want to be a doctor. That's what I want in life. And I love learning. I love medicine. And I really want to do that. That motivation comes from what we call intrinsic or inside. And this is a lot of my nighttime students. I teach one of my classes at Delta, and our class is from 5 to 8 p.m. at night once a week. And so those students work full time and they're coming to class late at night. They're tired, they haven't seen their family, but they're committed to learning. Right? And so that's what I want you to understand. There's a difference between being motivated internally because you want to be successful, you desire something, or being motivated by outside forces that say you have to do something. Okay? So two different kinds of motivation there. And really, the more you know about yourself, the more you can tap into that internal motivation. So in other words, if something excites you, like when you think about helping patients, or when you think about auto mechanics, or when you think about science, you get like, oh, that makes sense to me. It just clicks. Other subjects don't click, but that one really clicks, right? The more you know about you, the more motivated you can be to accomplish your goals. That's why, again, this week's activities are about learning a little bit more about you and your identity, because the more you know about yourself, the happier you will be when you understand your values. All right, we talked about this a little before, but just to kind of understand how important that visualization is. Visualizing you accomplish something. So in a Harvard study, research discovered that students who visualize in advance of anticipated tasks, in other words, you have an assignment or a paper or a test, you performed with nearly 100% accuracy when tested, compared to those who did not visualize and achieved only 55% accuracy. So what we're saying here is that if you say, every week that we go through our chapters, I'm reading the book, I am writing down all the information in my study guide, I am studying my study guide and memorizing that, right? If I have a question, I'm asking a question to get clarification. I'm doing all of these things. I can see myself sitting down for the exam and I'm prepared. I have my study guide with me, that's correct. I have all the information. I've been reviewing it. I'm ready. And I can see myself getting 100%. You're more likely to achieve that goal if you can actually see yourself doing it. Okay? All right, so some good decisions versus, poor decisions, I should say. And let me start off by saying, we've all made poor decisions, sometimes really bad, sometimes really bad decisions. That's life, right? That is just life. I'm one who is a big believer in fessing up. I just believe that, you know what? I screwed up, man. I done bad. I done dumb. That's what happens. Okay, I've had that happen. You've had that happen. That's kind of the way it goes. That's life. But let's talk about how do we make some good decisions. And so I'm not going to go through each of these, but, read through here about some of the things that you can do to, sit down and take time to make decisions, and not making spur of the moment decisions is a good one. Also, my kids really struggle with making any decision. We go get ice cream and they sit there for 10 minutes. And I'm like, what flavor do you want? All you have to say is a flavor, right? There's 31 here, pick one. And my kids will sit there, I don't know, let me have another taster. And they get like 10 tasters, right? And it can be frustrating. And then they'll say, you know what, Mom, just pick for me. And I'll say, no, you have to learn to make decisions. So Mom's not going to pick for you yet. You're going to have to make the decision and then live with those consequences, right? Developing a growth mindset. So what is a growth mindset? So a growth mindset is when you believe that you can improve and further develop your skills. This is really important. So think about it. It means my mind is open, not closed. People who have a closed mind, they don't think they're going to get better, and they don't think they can really improve. They just think life stinks. Sometimes life can stink. However, with a growth mindset, we're going to understand that, you know what? Even though I'm not doing so well right now, I can get better and I can improve. I don't have some skills right now, but I can get them. And that's a growth mindset. This comes along with positive attitude, right? That's good. This is what I want you to do. Take responsibility for your failures, because failures to me are just stepping stones and learning experiences, right? In my home, we have a rule that my kids are not allowed, or I'm not allowed either, to make excuses. So if my kid was supposed to unload the dishwasher today, and when I say, dishes are still in the dishwasher, and it's like, oh, well, when I got home, I started doing this and I did that, and then they go on and on with 10 things they did. At the end of it, I'm like, gee, dishes still didn't get unloaded, right? You still lose your phone. There's still consequences. You can rattle off every excuse under the book. It doesn't fly here. What I tell my kids is that what I want them to say is, you know what? When I say, dishes didn't get unloaded, what happened there? They say, my bad, Mom. I blew it. I started doing other things when I got home and I blew it. My bad. I'll go do it right now. Yes, thumbs up, because my kids are taking personal responsibility, right? They said, you know what? I blew it. I messed up. They didn't rattle off all the excuses, but they said, I messed up. Let me go ahead and fix it and remember next time, right? So take responsibility for those setbacks rather than blaming other people, right? All right. You can read this on your own, more about having a growth mindset. I see my battery is going to just die soon. That's why I'm like hurrying along here. All right. All right. And this talked a little bit about an active approach to learning, meaning that hopefully engaging in our classroom learning. So again, because we're in an online classroom, that's why I want to hear more from you, because I don't get to hear your voice, your writing. And again, I'm the only one who reads it. Your writing to me is the way that I'm hearing your voice. So share your voice, right? All right, transition to college life. Yeah, this is going to be super important. You know what I'm going to do? I apologize, guys. Time out. I'm going to go grab my charger so I can charge my laptop. I told you this would happen with me. That's just the way I roll. So hold on a minute. Be right back. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, got us all plugged in and all ready to go. Sorry about that. Again, you are the only class that I actually take the time to make weekly videos for, because my other classes, I've already made those videos and they're done. But you're a little bit of a special group. This is the first time that I've taught in your type of settings. And so this is kind of like trial by fire, right? And we can make adjustments as we go. But I really felt it's important to spend some time with you face to face, or at least allowing you to see me and allowing us to go through the material together. So I apologize for the delay. All right, so transitioning to college life. This is a really big, important one because managing your time, we'll talk more about time management later, but this is so important and it relates to your work. Right? Being at work on time, getting your job responsibilities done on time, all of that is super important, right? Figuring out your major is a big one. I think it's ridiculous of us as a society to think that somebody who's 18 years old when they graduate high school knows what they want to do for the rest of their life. That's just not the way it works. You probably don't even know who you are yet at 18, right? I'm still figuring out who I am at 53. And so I think that's really just makes no sense to me. And not to mention that we change our mind. When I was, that age, when I was 18, I was going to be a nurse. I was sure. I'm like, oh, I like helping people. I'm going to be a nurse. And then I did my community college years. I transferred to a 4-year school and I started the nursing program. And I was like, ew, I don't think I want to be a nurse. And I wouldn't have known it until I started taking classes. And so we change our mind all the time. So, I don't expect you to have a particular goal in mind as far as like, what do I want to do for the next 50 years? But figuring out what you enjoy is important, right? Setting your priorities and tracking your progress, knowing like who do I talk to about what classes to sign up for, how soon do I have to make an appointment with my counselor. These are things that a lot of us who didn't have somebody who went to college in our family, we don't know. And that's what I want you to learn. We're going to talk about in this class. All right. Yeah, sorry. Metacognition is just talking about kind of reflecting or processing what we learn. And we do that. We're doing that in our weekly reflections. So I encourage you to just kind of, as you reflect, just think about different ways of what we've learned. So let's talk about the effects of college if you choose to go to the college route later on, right? So what I find with my students is really interesting, and that is that when students come to my classes, I think they come with this idea that they know who they are a little bit and that they know what they believe in. So they believe in black and white. In other words, they believe, capital punishment is wrong, right? And they have their beliefs and things. However, especially in my human development class where we do a lot of case studies and we look at a lot of situations and we see that life is not so black and white, that a lot of situations are what I call gray. They're in the middle. They're in the middle. And so as we go through college, we get like, whoa, I never thought of it that way. Whoa, I used to believe this was always wrong, but now I can see there's situations that maybe it would be okay, right? And that's growth. And that's really one of the most, to me, exciting things about college is that you get to grow in your values and what you believe in. Every year of college improves your cognitive ability. What this means is that if you started taking online college courses right now, or you started going to college after you finish high school or even during high school, that every year you're in taking classes, even though you don't get a degree, you're still getting smarter. It improves your cognitive abilities. That's awesome, right? Let's see here. Most college students are going to college because why? They want to make money. And I think it's a great motivator. I do, right? I told you, my parents and family, we came from a really impoverished, poor background. And my parents hated being poor. They did. They just said they hated it. They were really poor. And they hated being that poor. And that is what drove them to education, because it was just this feeling of, this is not the life I want for us or for our children. And so, you know what? We're going to have to figure out how to get good paying jobs. And the way to get good paying jobs for them was education. right? So, and again, we know that the more college education you get, the wealthier you are, the more money you make, and the healthier you are. You have better health care because of the jobs you're getting, and you're more informed on exercise and nutrition. We'll talk a little bit about that later in the semester here. All right, what we know here is research says that when you take responsibility for completing your assignments and you believe in your ability to complete them, you'll get the best results. In other words, remember, you can't say things like the dog ate my homework, right? You really can't make excuses. If you didn't do the paper or you didn't do your homework, it's on you. Fess up and do better. Right? So when we take that responsibility for our assignments, just life goes a whole lot better, right? I've had lots of students come up with lots of excuses or email me lots of reasons why they didn't do this or that. And sometimes there's legitimate reasons. And sometimes when we have something happens in our personal family, there's things that happen that I try to be very understanding about. But other times it's just us. Right? We choose to watch movies instead. All right, and you can look here about, this is kind of applying motivational strategies on the job, right? So staying motivated in school and then staying motivated at work, because all of us kind of get into dips where we're not motivated, where we're tired. You think, I'm tired of working here, or I'm tired of being in school forever. I've been in school forever, right? I definitely felt that way. In my years of school, I felt like, man, I'm going to be a student forever. But, you know, eventually you achieve your goal. But these are some good suggestions on how to stay motivated or excited during those times that you don't feel like it. Right? And then taking personal responsibility at work, right? So making good choices, right? One of the things, as I said, that my parents taught me was to have a very strong work ethic. And so even in my jobs in high school, I remember, you know, always being early for work. I would never, like my dad would tell me, you don't even, you know, I was a secretary or a receptionist when I was young, and don't even take a pencil. Don't take anything that belongs to the company because that's company property, and we respect that. And show them that you're willing to work overtime if you need, or you know, always do those kind of things. And so, you know, making good choices that help you to want to get ahead. As a boss, right? So after I finished my master's degree, I went into some organizations where I was a manager of large departments. And in one of my departments, I remember that here's my philosophy. My philosophy was, I want an employee that I can teach. I want them to be able to learn. I want them to have a good attitude, get along with other people. I don't care so much that they know the skills because I can teach them the skills. But I want them to have like good personal responsibility. I wanted an employee that I trusted. In other words, if let's say this was a business that I built, if I own my own company and I hire you, I want to believe when I leave my company to go to a meeting that it's in good hands with you there. That's what we want to believe. And so taking that personal responsibility to your workplace, showing them a strong work ethic, that's how we move up, right? We move up the ranks. All right, guys, I think that is it for this week. And again, I want you to read your chapter 3 on motivation and good decision making. I then again look forward to a shorter video talking about, I want to explain to you a little bit more about our activities that we're doing. And I want to share one of the activities. I did it, or I've done them myself, and I want to read it to you and give you an example so that you can start thinking about it and working on them. They won't be due until next week, so we have some time, and these are the kind of activity I want you to reflect on. All right, see you real soon.